The other feature that's nice in that therapy with the contingent visitation is I can go to the child and say, this is up to you. We're not asking perfect. We just want normal. And as long as you stay normal, everything's fine. And that helps communicate to the child the importance of family and the importance of everybody in the family. So that's one approach. You also mentioned the ABAB single case design.
Yes.
That's another alternative. Single case research studies, it's a type of research methodology. And it's, ABAB is different conditions of how we sequence stuff. But it's applying a research model to clinical interventions. It's used with autism a lot. It's used with learning disabilities a lot. It is probably the highest form of clinical intervention because it's applying a research methodology to the intervention. And that's a possibility in this situation.
But then you're creating data along the treatment.
And so it starts with the baseline phase where you get what the current situation is, child's rejecting a parent. Then you protectively separate the child from that parent and the symptoms drop. Then after a period of time, structured, defined period of time, the symptoms have dropped. You restore that parent, the symptoms come back again. I know now which parent's causing it.
Right.
I expose the child to the parent, symptoms there, I drop it. Symptoms go away, re-expose it, symptoms there, and then I fix it again. That's the last B phase, so we always leave the child in. If, though, we start off with symptoms, we fix them, we return the parent, and the symptoms don't come back, everything's fixed. So either way, I have identified causality or I've fixed things. And we always, because of the final B, we always leave the child in fix. And so that is a rock solid, top of the line scientific intervention that can be employed right now.
So why don't we?
I don't know. And I think that would, my recommendation would be the ABAB single case design as one of your models to look at. Then anybody else comes up with any other model, let's look at that one. You want to come up with a third one, come up with the third one. But let's get the data on what works to help the child have a normal childhood and to have mom and dad's love to help them. Imagine if a young boy rejects his mother in adolescence. What's going to happen in that wife relationship? When they start to have, does he know how to fix things? No. What does he do? He rejects people. We're going to have this all over again, aren't we? And he's not going to have, and it just it goes through, that's the ripple. It just moves through generations. And we have to interrupt that to allow love to enter and the child to be loved by everybody.
Okay. Well, I think that's a beautiful way to end this interview. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
For your time.
Thank you.
I guess that's it.
Hi. Let me add one more piece.
Okay.
On this.
Of course.
Okay, so hold on just a second. Let me get one more piece and we can edit up. So, in addition, I want to talk about one more possible intervention with this. And this is through the work of Dorsey Pruder. And she's a coach. She was a child of alienation. She was also a spouse within that process. The wonderful thing is she understands the child's experience. Tremendous empathy, and so she can actually recover the authentic child within a 4-day span, typically by the second day. And it's very easy. She just shows them videos and just structured workshop activities. So it's a very gentle, easy, nice approach, and it works. It absolutely works. Now, she showed me the protocol for what she does, and initially I did, there's no therapy on the planet that can restore something in 4 days, and we don't do 4 days intensive like this because psychotherapy is too intensive. She's not doing psychotherapy. It's just watching videos, so it's gentler. And so, but it's in the day, and she's got the system, and it's a skill-based system, and it opens up empathy and opens up love. So when I saw what she could do in 4 days, why would I put my kid through 6 months of my therapy when she can get him back and forth? And so at this point, that's my recommendation. If you have really difficult situation, she can get back in 4 days, and then we stabilize. In what we're working towards ultimately, though, is that we don't need high road. We don't need therapy. We stop this early in the process before it ever hits the need for any sort of, but if we do need to fix things, there's absolutely ways we can fix things. We should never be leaving our kids out there like this.
Yeah.
And again, I don't care if it's your solution or my solution. We've had 40 years of no solution. Things need to change. In the upheaval of change, we need stability. Turn to science for that, not just, this is the way we've always done it. Let's get some data and figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. But I'm just wondering, isn't it also more difficult the earlier you tackle the issue, the more difficult the assessment is? Is that true?
Sort of. What I would typically do, 6% of the population has a narcissistic personality disorder. 6% has borderline. We know those are coming in. The narcissist is sensitive to rejection, divorce.
Right.
The borderline is sensitive to abandonment, divorce. So we know they're going to be collapsing, and they're fragile.
Yeah.
So we know they're coming in.
You can kind of predict.
Yeah. And so why don't we just do some early intervention kind of things to reroute that?
Right. How would that look like, early intervention?
The Law Society of Saskatchewan asked me to come up and talk to them. And in the afternoon, they had a panel discussion about all of the legal psychological interventions they're doing.
Yeah.
They have an early intervention program with skill development with parents. All parents coming through divorce, if it's starting to hit the court, they do a little trauma-informed skill development with the parents. If that solves it, great. If not, it goes into collaborative law, one lawyer with both families trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, it goes into mediation. And so now you have trauma-informed mediation. If that doesn't work, then you go into the assessments. You know, so it's a stepwise up, trying to keep it
tiered system.
Yes. And that's the type of procedural steps that absolutely we should develop. And so everybody comes through and everybody knows what's happening.
Yeah.
Next step, next step, next step, next step, next step, next step.
Yeah.
Always with a solution-focused goal of fixing the families.
Yeah, but if I'm getting you right, there's a assessment period where there will be, is that a triage system or?
Mm-hmm. It would be.
Then you assess, I guess you assess the soft, the medium and the hard cases.
I would not. Assessment is guided by the referral question. Okay. If you've got a question, come over to me and I will answer your question. If you've got a question, what should the child's custody be? I can't answer that. That's overbroad. I can't predict the future. There's not enough science. I don't know. If you ask me which parent is causing the child's pathology and what do we do about it, I can answer that. If you don't have that question yet, go ahead and fix things. Put them through skill classes. See if that can. Just do the intervention. It's called response to intervention. Just do the low. But if it's not working, these standard stuff that you can predict and the lower stuff, then you'll need an assessment to find out why isn't this working? Why is this pathology here? Then we kick it up and you kick it into clinical psychology and we produce a diagnosis and move on to treatment. But hopefully, because we know this stuff is coming in, we can do treatment-ish kind of things that will pull a lot of these cases back into normal range. And so it leaves us only with the really tough ones, and then you send them over for assessment. So we don't need to assess everybody. Let's just kind of treat what we think is coming forward, and that'll remove a lot of the cases to begin with. The worst thing I see, one of the worst things I see, is the declarations of parents in courts where each one is trying to prove the other parent is a bad parent. I hate that. We got to fix this family. I don't want the parents trying to say the other one's an awful parent.
Arguing that also in court we should not decide on right and wrong. We should take a more therapeutic approach
to bring the family together.
Yeah.
And so the more we can keep the family out of the court system, the better.
The better.
Yeah, this is not a legal problem, and it's not.
No, of course, but of course people think in people divorce and they think what am I supposed to do right now? We assess that we're going to divorce. Am I going to my own lawyer? Am I?
That's normal.
Mediation?
That's fine. So what we have, though, is one parent who is so pissed at the other spouse I'm going to take your child away from you. I'm going to destroy your love with the child. And the child starts to refuse the custody visitation.
So the real bad case.
Yeah. Then it goes into the court system. That's where the court gets involved. So the other parent isn't high conflict. They want to keep it out of the court. It's one person that puts it into the court system, and the topic is custody.
Yeah.
So everybody gets focused on custody. No.
So we're talking about the 20%, the really tough cases, 15-20%, on the exact numbers. Okay, so have this mindset.
Right, and so most of the divorces will go through court as we separate property and decide on the custody schedule. So they'll all go through divorce, through the courts, and that should be it. It's done.
Yeah.
If it comes back into the court because of some sort of child problem thing, pop it out to an assessment. What's going on? Who's causing the child's problem? A child's defying a court order? We should never have a child defying a court order. We need to teach our children respect for parental authority, but certainly respect for court authority. And we have a child coming over, defying it, find out what's going on, send it out to an assessment, which parent's going on, what's happening in this family. Psychology should not be returning issues about custody. They should be telling the court what the pathology is and what to do to fix it.
And then it is up to the legal professionals to do something with that.
Yeah, that is their choice based on the evidence.
Yeah.
And so psychology gives them the psychology evidence. There's more evidence, where the family's living, what's going on. A child unites two cultures, two families, two things within them. That's their identity. And so for the court to say one parent's out of the child's life is destroying the child's identity. Even if the child's saying, I don't want to be, but that's the other parent. And so the court's decision should always be supportive of family. And we should never leave it this way. And so the psychology needs to tell them, what do we do to fix this family? And psychology should deliver for the court. So psychology should be providing the court with information that things are fixed, because the court has an interest in that.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I'm advocating over in the U.S. is the appointment of what's called an amicus attorney. It's an attorney who represents the court, not the child, not the parent, the court. And that amicus attorney and the family therapist work together.
Okay, so but do they oversee the whole case?
Yes. So the amicus attorney and the family therapist are a team.
Right.
And so the amicus attorney knows the pathology, knows what it is at the level of, almost at the level of the psychologist. And the family therapist knows the legal, and they can work together.
Are these the unified family courts?
These would be family courts, yeah.
Right,
And right now we have 2 lawyers for each parent. And sometimes they try to appoint a guardian ad litem or something for the child. That's the wrong focus. It should be on the court. Okay. Because the court has a legitimate interest in the family. It showed up in their court system, family conflict, so now they're involved. And so we get an attorney that can talk with the therapist. Now, if the therapist has something and needs to talk to the court, they have an avenue in. And so that's both parents then still have their legal rights, but the court has an objective third opinion from the therapy to rely on. And so it's those types of changes that focus on bringing family together rather than conflict and all sorts of stuff. So the family court system, because it's family, has to be different than the rest of the adversarial legal system.
Right.
And so that's the little piece of adding that, would just be to add that third mediating in the middle therapy-driven attorney. And what I would ask from those attorneys, if you're going to work family law, is you have to know a little bit about the psychology. So you have to know what the pathology is, what the treatments are. If we work in the legal system, we have to know the legal stuff. If they're going to work with psychology, you need to know the psychology. And I think actually the lawyers who work family law would like that. They would like to be more involved in the treatment components of things and understand that. And people talk a lot about the voice of the child. The voice of the authentic child is my concern, but also that the legal representative represents the treatment. And so that's the healthy side. So the amicus attorney represents the healthy development of the child and speaks that voice to the court and is a mediator from the psychologist to the court in that.
Yeah. Well, to me, this you know, interchanging between psychologist and family lawyer is very interesting, and I'm getting lots of insights now from you. So I think
you know, one of the things at the Saskatchewan conference, one of the lawyers up there made a very strong presentation about the zealous advocate in the legal system, and she said it's not appropriate for family law. That family law should be about the child's best interest, not zealous advocacy for your parent. So if you have a pathological parent, you should temper your zealous advocacy into a family-oriented approach. I thought that was a very strong argument for the difference between family law and the rest of law. And then moving into, that's where they get the collaborative law of just one attorney working with both families, trying to get that unity to the family rather than the constant divisions. Constant divisions work well with every other type of criminal activity. It's the best way we've found so far of protecting people's rights and justice. It doesn't work in the family system because it fosters the conflict that we want to get away from.
Now that's interesting, because a court setting, you know what a court setting looks like. Parties are literally, I mean, they are you know, across each other. So maybe we should just rethink the whole...
Which is absolutely the opposite of what we want to do in therapy. So you're putting the child into a family court that's destructive of the therapy we want to achieve. So we just need a little tweak on the family court system that recognizes this is different than every other type of law. We still want to have both lawyers because both parents have rights. And we don't want to take away the rights.
Because I want to challenge you on that. Is it a bad idea to have a lawyer who is representing both parents? So basically the interest of the child.
Maybe not. Maybe that works in the Netherlands really, really well.
Right.
And maybe we don't. I don't know. Do we have evidence on that? Let's get some. Let's run a program where we appoint only one attorney, and let's have one where we have 3 attorneys. And then get the evidence and see what happens. And what works here won't work in Japan. Japan may have a different system for how they deal with their stuff because they're different cultures. And so that's but we have the same approach to finding the answers. Scientific method, put research, data, move forward. And
well, that's something that the legal sector should learn. I think this is something that
and with all the research on child development, electronic and still face and all this sort of stuff, we know the breach is bad. So we already have that evidence. We always want to fix things. And so then just how do we do that? Let's find out.
Okay. Let's find out then.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Or is there anything you want to add, by the way?
I'm good.
Sorry for cutting you off.
No.